Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's painting is about how to put together a painting from multiple elements. I was so inspired by a walk my daughter and I took with the dogs through the Soto National Memorial Park. It was just beautiful. The vegetation is subtropical and they have so many different plants. I love this tree. I took snaps everywhere. These boats, a bench on the beach. I saw a couple of different benches actually. I couldn't stop taking pictures and I could see a painting everywhere I turned. I liked this log with its mosses and ferns and vines. This is my dog Tommy on this sandy path with its beautiful shadows. I think I need to challenge myself and do more landscapes. I must have at least 6 pictures just from this one trip through the DeSoto Park, so I'll show you how I paint them. So for my first painting, I'm going to choose a few of my photographs and put them all together. So I did my sketch on tracing paper as I usually do, and of all the elements that I'd photographed, I chose the bench on the beach and the tall pine tree. I loved how tall it was and the gnarliness of it, and I liked the sandy path with the shadows. So I thought, okay, those are the 3 elements I'm going to combine into a picture. But in my sketch, the tree had lost its tallness, and I wasn't happy with that. So I thought, well, I need to do something. And the best I could do was lower the horizon line. So I did that when I transferred it. I don't know if you can see that as well. But now the tree stands out as being very, very tall. I've put some birds in there and I'm making them fly towards the center of the picture. So I don't want to lead your eye out of the picture. And the tree forms one side, it keeps your eye in, and the other side you're blocked from wandering out of the picture by the bench. That's how I think of it anyway. So I'm painting in water mixable oils, and I have my usual palette of titanium white, cad yellow light, raw sienna, raw umber, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, sap green, phthalo green, and alizarin crimson. And that's it. I went over this sketch with acrylic paint. It gives me a great surface to paint on and make sure that none of the white canvas shows through. My whole canvas is covered. I'm going to start off with ultramarine blue, and I'll add white as I go on. It makes it opaque because the ultramarine is very translucent paint. I'm using this kabuki brush, makeup brush, which I got from the Dollar Tree, and it gives me a nice blended soft background. I'm using ultramarine blue, royal umber and titanium white to give me a sort of greyish mid-tone to put on the trunk of my tree. I've mixed in a little more white into that to give me a paler grey for the uprights of the bench, although I think they were actually darker, but I like them light. While I've got the paint on the brush, I'll add a touch of that light to the tree. I've decided that the light is coming from the right-hand side. I'm mixing up a misty greyish green to put in the far shoreline. It was quite a bright green in actual fact, but I want to make it look distant, more more distant than it actually was. I'm putting in a sort of fan palm in front of the tree. There actually was one in the photograph that I took. Whatever color I have on my brush, I try to get it into other parts of the painting. I feel that it makes a painting more cohesive, and yeah, that's really how I feel. This tree actually casts quite a shadow, so I'll be working on that. Even though the sun's coming from the other direction, there'll still be some shadow on the ground. I'm using this bristle brush. It's nice and old and got a scrubby end, and I'm going to pounce in some of the foliage on the top of the pine. It's all right, Tommy. I think Tommy's not too sure about me talking to myself all day. I'm thinking of this as my mid-tone, but it's actually quite a dark green. Pine trees do have a very dark green needle, and so my mid-tone, therefore, is going to be quite a dark color. When it's time to put in my darks, I'll use ultramarine blue and raw umber, which will give me a very almost black color for the shadow. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to use this fan brush and sort of stroke on a few lighter pine needles. Now I'm using ultramarine blue and some raw umber, and I'm going to do the same thing and put in some shadow. Mixing a paler green, I'm going back with an even lighter light where the sun will be catching the pine needles. I'm using this other old bristle brush to sort of pounce the tops. The pine needles were in sort of little clumps all over the tree, and I'm trying to get that effect. I'm going to work on my clouds a little more. As you can see, they've dulled down quite considerably. I'm not totally happy with the sky yet. I'm mixing in alizarin crimson with a touch of ultramarine to give me a sort of purpley colour so that I can put in the base of the clouds. They're always in shadow and you get the white puffy part on top. But I find alizarin and ultramarine mixed together and the white blends into it, gives me that good shadow colour. I bring the Kabuki blender out again for this. It's a really good brush for blending. I'm mixing white, cad yellow light and a tiny part of raw sienna, and I'm going to work on the sand. There were palm trees all around. I can't put all of them in, but I'm going to just add a couple in the distance. I find landscapes a little fiddly to paint. You're forever adjusting lights and darks here and there. There are so many places you need to adjust. It's not like painting a rose, or even painting water. There's almost a formula to those things. And I apologize. I think someone's having their grass mode at the moment, so you can probably hear that. On the beach where I took the photograph, there was a lovely vine growing across the sand. I don't know the name of it, I couldn't tell you that, but it had a daisy flower, rather like a black-eyed Susan, only much tinier. It was really, really pretty. The main supports of the bench are cast concrete, and the bars or the seat and the back are made of an engineered wood, I believe, but it looks like real wood. So I'm using raw sienna, a little raw umber, and a touch of cad yellow and crimson, just to make a sort of orangey brown, which I think will do the trick. Well, at this point, I am adjusting lights and darks, adjusting the color of my sand, for instance, putting shadows across the sand, putting lights and darks on vines. That's really what you do in a landscape. It is a fun thing to paint a landscape, I've got to say. I will probably paint at least 2 or 3 more in the series just from the photographs that I took at De Soto Park. I'm using a bristle fan brush, and I'm putting in some just tufts of grass and greenery behind the bench. I love old brushes. I never throw my brushes away. I keep them forever. And sometimes they're missing bristles, but they add a little character to the stroke. And so I think they're valuable to keep. I use the fan brush flat on sometimes, just to sort of skim the surface. It gives an interesting brush stroke. Well, that's it really for painting the Soto National Memorial Park. It's a beautiful tropical landscape if you ever get a chance to explore. And I don't think there's much more for me to do to this painting. I'll be popping in a few lights and a few darks until I make myself stop. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to see more of my videos, and please leave me comments, and I'll see you next time.